Welcome to the Journey Podcast, where we share some of the most inspiring stories on the planet, life lessons, and tools that will help you navigate through your own personal journey. On this episode, you will find a segment from our weekly life coaching platform, the Dreamnation Breakfast Club. Feel free to tune in live on Zoom every Tuesday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern via dnbreakfastclub.com. I am your host, Josh Valentine. Grand Rising, great morning, everyone. We are live. I see we got Georgia in the house. We have New York. We got Stuart, Florida, Norfolk, Virginia. Welcome, welcome, everyone. We're about to get this thing rolling. Hope you're all doing well here this wonderful Tuesday morning. Feel free to hop over to the Journey Podcast with Josh Valentine if you would like to catch past snippets of the Breakfast Club, as well as full episodes of the Breakfast Club, and also tons of interviews that I have with some of my most inspiring friends in the world. And thank you so much for all of my supporters, whether you support on any of my subscriptions, whether it's IG or Facebook subscriptions or even Patreon. Thank you so much. For those who share stars on Facebook, I truly appreciate it. And we're about to get this show on the road. So welcome, everyone. Hope you're all doing wonderful. Happy Tuesday to you all. Once again, let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. I know we typically have people who tune in from all over the world. Shout out to everybody, of course, who's on the West Coast tuning in for the very first time. I know it's 4 a.m. over there right now. So shout out to everybody tuning in. And those of you working in the graveyard shift probably just got off of work not too long ago. And those of you who are just getting your day rolling, happy to be here with you all. If you're new to the Breakfast Club, welcome. In case you don't know, you're probably wondering what in the world you were tagged to. What did you stumble across? Maybe you were just kind of being nosy and someone shared this video on their social media. Welcome. My name is Josh Valentine. I am the official host of the Dreamnation Breakfast Club. I am a holistic life coach, and I do tons of life coaching sessions just like this every single Tuesday at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you ever want to engage with us live, you can right on dnbreakfastclub.com. That's where you can engage with us via Zoom. Thank you for all of those who consistently share the Breakfast Club and all that good stuff, who tag people. I truly appreciate it. And we're about to get the show on the road. Today, we are going to be covering the 7 signs of burnout. So 12 signs that you're going through burnout. Anybody ever experienced some burnout? I most certainly have. Burnout is definitely a big part of, or a part of my life that I experience from time to time, especially with so many different hats that I wear. And for those of you who are familiar with my story, you know that I have a family of 5, 3 young boys that we all homeschool. My wife and I homeschool our 3 boys. And between that, running multiple businesses, running a coaching practice, speaking, consulting, running, just all of the products and services that we offer online, all of these different things, our community. It takes a lot of energy to pretty much stay consistent with all of that. So I most certainly know what it's like to experience burnout. And I'm sure a lot of you all have experienced it throughout the course of your life, especially in today's day and age where life be lifing. And there's just a lot of struggles that people go through on a day-to-day basis just to make ends meet. So I know you guys are going to get a lot of value from this specific session. Really excited to go a little bit deeper into that. If you're new to the Breakfast Club, typically the first 30 minutes, we share life hacks and fun facts. Every now and then we'll have shares from our community. So if you guys have anything of value you would like to share, you can drop it in the comments. And let's see here. All right. We should be all good to go. Thank you for those who, tagged everyone on Facebook, for those who share as well. We truly appreciate it. And shout out to those of you who are tuning into this episode via the Journey Podcast. All right. Let's get the show on the road. Got some great value for you all. And I'm going to jump into some fun facts here. So the very first one that we have is, here we go. In 1776, Let's take it way back. A man who made $4,000 a year was considered wealthy. Think about that for a second. In 1776, just $4,000 a year. I would argue and say that it's hard to even survive off of $4,000 a month these days, let alone $4,000 a year. Now, of course, to be fair, you have inflation. The value of the dollar was very different during those times. So let's put things into context here. But quite interesting to know that $4,000 a year, that's how much our dollar has inflated. Now, next fun fact we have for you all. The act of snapping one's fingers is called a fillip. For those of you who are spoken word fans, whenever you snap your fingers, you are apparently doing what's called a fillip. Okay, really interesting. And let's see here. Next fun fact. You guys probably have heard me mention this before on the Breakfast Club, and that is silent and listen are spelled with the same letters. Isn't that interesting? And I usually use this as sort of like an analogy that when it comes to being a really great listener, it's always best to just be silent. You have two ears and one mouth for a reason. Listen twice as much as you're speaking if you truly want to be an effective communicator. So silent and listen, ironically enough, are basically share the same exact letters. Next up, we have human thigh bones are as strong as concrete. The human body is an amazing thing. Could you imagine, right? A human thigh bone. You can knock somebody out with a human thigh bone. Strong as concrete. Okay. We have the word of the week. Typically, I share the word of the week because we are big on expanding vocabulary here on the Breakfast Club. And in case you don't know, the Breakfast Club is kind of like a school for life. So you come here, you're learning all these cheesy things, and they do add value. So I've been sharing them for years upon years, and a lot of people, you'd be amazed by how many people will get one little life hack on the Breakfast Club, and that's the one thing that they thank me for when they meet me officially in person. But we typically share a word of the week. A lot of people get value from this as well. This week's word of the week is a verb, and the word is extemporize. Extemporize is spelled Extemporize, and extemporize basically means to do something extemporaneously. Talk about a tongue twister. In other words, to improvise. So to extemporize means to improvise. And a good example with that would be a good talk show host must be able to extemporize when interviews don't go as planned. I know a thing or two about that doing interviews on my end with the Breakfast Club and also just the Journey podcast. So really great word. And let's see here. We have some more shares for you all. All right. Thank you for all of those who, once again, share, tag, all that good stuff. We truly appreciate it. And have some more personal development snippets for you all. The next one is a simple question that can make a huge difference was suggested to me by Leo Buscaglia, who had contributed so much in the arena of human relations. When he was young, Leo's father asked him every night, "What have you learned today?" The boy knew he had to have an answer, and a good one. If he hadn't learned anything interesting in school that day, he'd scurry for the encyclopedia. Decades later, Leo still won't go to bed until he's learned something new and valuable for the day. How could your life or your children's lives be immeasurably enhanced by adding this question or one like it to your daily routine? In what ways could you make this process as fundamental as eating or sleeping? Could you imagine just dedicating your life every single day to learning something new? Anybody learn anything new recently? Drop a comment if you've learned anything new recently that has added value to your life. And I see we have people tuning in from different parts of the world. I see we got Sharon tuning in from Thailand, all the way from Thailand. Shout out to everybody in our community who is out in Thailand right now. We've got Boston in the house. We've got uh, Brampton, Ontario, Canada. We got Canada in the house. All right. So really great share there. And I know on the topic of learning, I've been very adamant about just learning new things throughout the course of my life. And when it comes to learning, one of the things that had added a lot of value to my life is treating every single person that I meet, every encounter, whether they're an old person, young person, doesn't matter who they are, no matter what socioeconomic status they currently have. I treat every single person as if they're a teacher, as if they have something valuable that I can learn from them. And going about my relationships like this and my interactions like this has allowed me to learn a great deal of information, right? Sometimes it might literally be just talking to the cashier at a store and finding out the story of the owner, right? Or just learning a little bit about their business model. And you'd be amazed at what you can learn from pretty much anyone, even someone who, let's say, is just homeless, and you're having a conversation with someone who's homeless and learning a little bit about their lives and how they got to that place in their lives. And I mean, there's so much information that you can learn from just about anyone. So next up, we have, at some point, you must stop asking questions and start taking action. Questions such as, what is my life really about? What am I most committed to? And why am I here? Are incredibly powerful. But if you agonize over getting the perfect answer, you won't get very far. The gut level response to any question is often the one that should be trusted and acted upon. So, in order to produce results, simply decide what's most important to you, at least in the moment, and use your personal power to follow through and begin transforming the quality of your life. So, really, really great share there. And it's it's important, like, to eradicate this idea of perfectionism. Like, I most certainly have been guilty of just always wanting certain things perfect, whether it be the perfect answer to something or just the perfect way of going about things. And one thing that I can tell you is perfectionism is an assassin to execution. So perfectionism assassinates execution because when it comes to just executing, sometimes it's just better to take action when you have the capacity to take action. Oftentimes people want to get everything dialed in right. And I'm telling you, if you live your life in that way, you're gonna do everything just late. You're never going to follow through on things that you need to do at the time frame you need them done. So I've just learned to embrace my flaws and my imperfections and be okay with being perfectly imperfect. And whatever it is that you have going on, let go of the idea of just always having everything basically needing to be perfect. A lot of people fall into this trap, and they want to wait for the right conditions. They want to wait for this to be the right way and this to be in alignment. And I'm telling you right now, it's rarely ever going to be a situation where everything comes together perfectly. Sometimes it's just better to say yes, pull the trigger, and just figure it out as you go. And I most certainly have benefited from this way of going about life, especially as it pertains to entrepreneurship, because there's just always going to be so many variables, so many things that can throw you off track. And if you're clinging to the idea of just being perfect, take my word for it. Like, not only that, not only is it going to kill your ability to execute, but even worse, a lot of people who follow you, they're going to feel as if they have to be perfect. They're going to feel like they can't even relate. They can't do it because you're all perfect. And if you truly want to grow a massive community, be okay with sharing your flaws. Be okay with being vulnerable and being authentic and being real. When you're too perfect, when you're too polished, a lot of people just they don't see that for themselves, because in their mind, they're like, oh, that's just so far out for me to be that perfect. And you don't realize how much perfectionism is actually sabotaging your growth as a leader. A lot of people are okay with following imperfect leaders, following flawed leaders. We follow flawed leaders all the time, especially in our government and in our school system and so many different organizations. Tons of flawed leadership, right? But it's important to understand that you also have grace when it comes to your leadership, and it's okay to make mistakes from time to time and not have everything be so perfect. So moving forward, we have another share here, and that share is take down barriers. Think about a goal you are working on, identify the obstacles you are facing, right? So I want you guys to think about that really quick. Think about a goal you're currently working on. I know we're about to approach the second half of 2024. I hate to be the one to remind you, but it's right around the corner, y'all. Like second half is just a few short weeks away, and we're about to go into the fifth month of the year, right? So it's crazy to think that 2024, I feel like it just got started. Can anybody relate to just feeling like this year just got started? It's like, where has the time gone? And that's the thing is, life is just going to fly by, and you have to be very adamant about staying on top of your goals that you set, because many times a lot of these goals, these new year resolutions, they end up going on the back burner because you're not bringing enough consciousness to them on a daily basis. So think about a goal that you are currently working on, or perhaps a goal that you set earlier on the year or in the year. Next up, identify the obstacles you are facing. I can tell you right now, one of the greatest obstacles for me that I've learned about myself is the obstacle of having distractions pop up. And oftentimes, because I have a good heart, I find myself taking those conversations, and sometimes people they'll need someone to speak to. I'm the person that kind of gets the call when people are in difficult situations, people are going through some major life difficulties, and I get these calls for counsel. And it's as much as I love to serve, as much as I love to be there and give of myself. The downside is it can become a distraction to my specific goals and things that I have that I'm working on. And if you don't manage this, if you don't manage the distractions, I'm telling you, they will consume your life, and they will be the biggest hindrance to you getting things done. So always be mindful of that when it comes to just anything that you want to do. Avoiding distractions, eliminating distractions, exercising your no muscle is always going to be a big part of the success process. Lastly, find someone to help you brainstorm ways to overcome those obstacles. This is where a mentor, a coach, someone that you can tap in, and get some knowledge with or from. It's so important. Sometimes you have to trust the thinking that outthinks you. Sometimes you need a different perspective. Sometimes you're just a perspective away from really changing your life. You just need that one insight, that one nugget, that one gem, that one piece of advice that you get that changes everything. So always, always, always be open to the idea of investing in mentorship, investing in coaching. I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into my personal development over the years. So when people ask me, like, man, like, how in the world did you get to the point where you're charging as much as you charge for coaching services and speaking services? And what I have to explain to them is, don't look at just the price that I'm charging for the hour. Look at the amount of time and resources and energy that went into getting to this place, right? You're not looking at the hundreds of thousands of dollars that were invested in a decade. You're not looking at all the time invested in learning from coaches and mentors over the years. So it's important to invest in yourself, invest in your knowledge. Now, ask yourself, what obstacle currently seems insurmountable if I face it alone? Think about it. Sometimes a lot of the obstacles that we face it's very difficult to kind of navigate through those obstacles because we're just doing it on our own. We don't have any support system. And this is one thing that I find super valuable these days is just having a friend to talk to about certain challenges that I'm going through, especially friends that can relate. Don't be going to your single friends asking for marriage advice. Don't be going to your out of shape friends asking for fitness advice. Never take advice from people you wouldn't be willing to trade places with in that area. That's one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever gotten in my life. Stop taking advice from people you wouldn't be willing to trade places with. So if someone doesn't have the ideal relationship that you want, they're probably not the most qualified person to give you advice in that area. The same with your fitness, the same with your faith, the same with your fortune, the same with every aspect of your life. Now, here we go. What obstacles currently seem insurmountable if I face it alone? When you approach a problem with the willingness to synergize, you can come up with new ways to overcome challenges. Love it. When you introduce synergy, you unfreeze restraining forces, loosen them up, and create new insights. Stephen Covey. I love this because I know recently, one of the things that I've learned as an entrepreneur, multiple businesses, you have many different hats. One of the things that has been super beneficial has just been tapping in with people who are winning at a very high level and just seeing what they're doing, getting around them, getting around the campfire is a big part of it. So if you have, let's just say, an area of your life that you want to improve, right? Get around people who are thriving in that area. Get around that campfire, especially if it's business related. If it's business related, find people who are getting the results that you want and just be around them. I remember years ago when I was on my entrepreneurial journey, when I first retired from the workforce, I was 24 years old and I basically saved up enough money to just give myself time to build out my business. And I had to really find someone that I can get plugged into. So, a really good friend of mine, he was making multiple six figures in the same business that I was in, and he was killing it and he was doing his thing. And he was also retired from the workforce. So I'd get up every single morning and drive to Manhattan on the Upper West Side of Manhattan every single day to just meet with him at a coffee shop every day. And I didn't have no job to report to or anything like that, but I just knew I understood law of association. I understood that if you hang around, right, nine broke people, you're bound to be the 10th. But it also works in the opposite. If you hang around nine wealthy people, you're bound to be the 10th. If you hang around nine successful people, you're bound to be the 10th. So I was very adamant about getting around that energy, getting around, again, the thinking that was outthinking me. This is a big part of your journey, and it's going to help you tremendously with pretty much everything that you have going on. Okay. So next up, let's just see here. I think we covered all of the snippets. We're about to jump into the life. Well, we covered the life hacks, fun facts, word of the week, all that good stuff. And I'm going to go over 10 questions for self-reflection. So 10 self-reflection questions that you guys can journal on. We are a journaling community. So I always encourage our community to just go out there and journal as much as you can. Journaling is very therapeutic. It can help you in your most difficult moments. Honestly, whenever I'm going through some of my greatest challenges, just helping me take my thoughts out of my head and put them down. And sometimes it's just always pen and paper. If you just have to journal right on your phone, go for it. But taking your thoughts out of your head, putting them down on a piece of paper or on your phone or on any device, it just helps a lot. Sometimes it helps give you more clarity of thinking. Sometimes it helps you put yourself out of the problems, right? Take your mind off of the problems and look at things from an outsider's perspective. This can be one of the best things that you could possibly do. I'm telling you, if you haven't gotten into journaling, just give it a shot for a season and see how much it improves your life. And one of the things about journaling, you may be wondering, well, what do I write about? Anything. It doesn't have to be on anything specific. It doesn't have to be what you're thinking about. Maybe you're going through, let's say, these self-reflection questions, and You're just answering these questions. And the process of that can also be very therapeutic. It helps get your mind off of all of the problems that you're focusing on. Now, here we go. Here are 10 self-reflection questions. Number one, am I a better person today than I was last year? Think about that. Am I a better person today than I was last year? Drop a Y in the comment thread if you believe that. If you receive that, I am a, you know what? As much as life has been lifing for me in this past year, I am still a better person today than I was a year ago. Amen to that. Shout out to everybody who's even just 1% better. If you're just even 1% better, that still signifies that you're growing, which is beautiful. Okay. And I would take an assumption, and I would assume that if you're tuning into the Breakfast Club, I would hope that you're slightly better than you were a year ago. Okay. Number two, we have, what type of friend do I want to be? Have you ever thought about that? Like, what kind of friend do you want to be? I know I always kind of joke around and say that I'm a shovel friend, right? I'm that friend that you call at 2 in the morning when you need the duct tape and some shovel because you just did something crazy. And I'm probably going to not only just bring you that shovel, even if I don't have a shovel, I might just help you bury what you need to bury. I'm that kind of friend. I'm that friend that loves deep. I'm that friend that 100% is going to have your back. I don't have a whole bunch of really intimate friends, but the ones that are like friends that I'm doing life with, I am that friend to them. And a lot of my friends are that friend to me. And what friend do you want to be? Do you want to be a loyal friend? Do you want to be that friend that your friends can count on? But this is a really good question to ask yourself. One thing that I know that I'm not that friend that's going to be on the phone 2-3 hours a day talking with you. It's just not going to happen. I'm way too busy. I got too many things going on. However, when we do talk, you know that you're going to have my undivided attention. I'm going to be fully present, and I'm going to give you 100% of me in that moment. So again, it's not about always being the friend that's, at every single function, every single week you're with their friend. And you don't have to necessarily be that kind of friend and still be an amazing, amazing friend. I'm that friend that, I may not show up to every event, but I'll do my best to show up to the important events, especially if I know that it means a lot to my friend. Okay. Number three, what is the most important thing that I need to accomplish? Think about that. What is the most important thing that I need to accomplish? Now, this question helps for the day, big time. So if you just ask yourself, so you guys hear me talk about the big three. And if you just ask yourself, okay, what are the top three things that I need to accomplish today? And I remember hearing Warren Buffett say years ago that if you have more than three priorities, you don't have any priorities. He believes in the power of three. Find three things that you absolutely need to get done for the day. And think about that. What is the most important thing that you need to accomplish? Maybe that micro goal serves that macro goal and that vision for that you have for your life. Number four, what is the most adventurous thing I have done in my life? What is the most adventurous thing I have done in my life? Can anybody drop a comment on what is the most adventurous thing you've ever done in your life? I'm curious. I'll tell you, for me, it was literally when I was 29 years old. I had three kids. This is the first thing that comes to mind, at least. But I had three kids, and I went on a solo trip for a few weeks. And of course, our kids were, my wife had a bunch of help from her family, but I just felt called to go on this solo trip. And I literally went to all kinds of countries. I started out, I think, I went to New York. From New York, I went to Rome. From Rome, I went to Jordan. I was out in the Middle East, right? Went to the Vatican City in Rome. I visited the Sistine Chapel. Stopped over in Abu Dhabi. From Abu Dhabi, went over to Australia. I climbed the Sydney Bridge in Australia. I stayed in hostels. Your boy stayed in hostels. Listen, I've been in the luxury travel business for years, and your boy said, I'm going to try this hostel thing. And I'm telling you, it ain't necessarily everybody's cup of coffee. I tell you that much. And I saw some things, but it was really cool. And it was just one of those experiences where, I said, you know what? I'm getting older. I know if I don't do it now, I'm probably never going to do this. So let me go and stay in some hostels. And that's what I did. And surprisingly enough, there's some incredible hostels around the world, but not all hostels are created equal. So, but all in all, it was a really incredible time. I stopped over after Australia, stopped over in New Zealand, from New Zealand, stopped over in Chile, explored a little bit around Chile, and then my final destination was Peru before going back to the Bahamas. So a full world tour around, just everywhere, and I got to complete the seven natural wonders of the world and all of the inhabited continents on that trip. And my recommendation is find something that you can do that's adventurous. Find something on your bucket list that you can do this year. Don't put these things off. You just never know what direction your life may take you in. I'm so happy that I got all of my traveling out the way early on, like in my 20s, because these days with a family of five, it's not easy. And like right now, we have our trip to Africa coming up. And could you imagine paying for five full priced flights to Africa for a family of five? It ain't cheap. So, it's super important to really seize the moment whenever you have opportunities to do something adventurous, and don't put it off. Don't put it on the back burner, because a lot of people, that's why they never go on to do the things that they always wanted to do, and then they find themselves at the tail end of their lives, just wishing they had taken a chance on those things. So, yes. What is the most adventurous thing you have done in your life? Someone shared going on a mission trip to South Africa in the bush. I love it. Love it. Love it. We have someone who shared jumping from a plane and motherhood. Yes. Shout out to all the moms. I got a soft spot for all the amazing moms that we have in our community. And motherhood is no joke, as well as fatherhood. Next up, we have number 5. What is my biggest fear in life? What is my biggest fear in life? And it's so crazy. I remember, even you probably have heard me if you tune into the early Breakfast Club sessions. I used to say things like, "Oh, I have no, I have no fear." And then, you start having kids, and then you start realizing, and you get humbled real quick that things happening to your children starts to put fear in your heart, and I know it's easy to say, yeah, they're in God's hands and all that stuff, but easier said than done. I didn't know fear until I started having like kids. Like, it's easy to not have fear. It's easier to not have fear when it's just you, right? But when your kids are out in the world and you have to put your faith and trust that they're divinely protected and they'll be okay, but it is no joke. When you have kids, you fear for them, and all you can do is just really raise strong kids, compassionate kids, kids that are self-efficient, kids that have high self-esteem, and they're not so vulnerable to the vultures of the world. So yes, I would say that's definitely a big fear for me. Number 6, what type of person do I want to be? What type of person do you want to be? Do you want to be someone that's known to be bold, someone that's known to be compassionate, peaceful, always happy, someone who's a go-getter, right? But what type of person do you want to be? Reflect on that, journal on it. All good questions and good answers for setting your intention. Number 7, what am I tolerating? I love the saying that you have to go where you're celebrated, not tolerated. So for those of you who are just tolerated at your job, tolerated in your community, it's much better sometimes to like just go where you're celebrated as opposed to tolerated. Okay. So, but what are you specifically tolerating? Is it bad behavior from your children? Are you tolerating friends talking to you some type of way, right? People crossing over your boundaries all the time. But what are you tolerating? Oftentimes, those little things kind of creep in our lives. And then you got to draw the line in the sand like, nope, this is where that stops. I know for me, I'm always a little bit super deep into relationships because sometimes when you cultivate relationships, people get a little comfortable. They think that they can talk to you anyway. They think that they can, joke around, about certain things some type of way. They feel like they can bring up certain things in conversation and they cross boundaries. So you always have to make it very clear that, hey, we're not going to the other day I was one of my friends, and this was all 100% ego and pride, but the other day I was rushed by someone. Like they like, well, one of my really good friends, like kind of like rushed me, like, hurry up, and I had to catch myself because I was like, who the hell do you think you're rushing? Like you asked me to, help you with something and you over here rushing me. But again, you have to there's a fine line between just certain things that you tolerate and certain things that need boundaries, right? So it's important to teach people how to treat you because a lot of people will just walk all over you if you don't make it clear that this is what I stand for. And that goes back to what type of person do you want to be? I know for me, I'm most certainly like I'm big on respect. Like I respect people because I demand respect in return. So don't expect respect. Don't expect respect if you're not giving respect to other people. That's a big part of the process. Number 8, am I a good example for those around me? This is really, really important. One of the things that I spoke to someone recently about this. I think that one of the greatest measures of success in your life, one of the greatest ways to measure your success in life is by asking yourself, if my child ended up exactly like me and they went with my life path. Let's just say your child followed in your footsteps and did all the things that you do in your life, as well as your character and everything that you have going on in your life. What if your child ended up like that? Would you be proud of that child? Think about it. If your child ended up just like you, would you be proud of your child? For those of you who have children, you probably, this may hit home a little bit, right? But this is a clear indication that you're leading by example. If your children followed in your footsteps, I always have to remind myself, I got 3 boys. So I always have to remind myself like, hey, with my 3 boys, if they end up with my mannerisms, if they end up with my etiquette, if they end up with just my way of being, would I be proud of them? Will I feel like they're taking care of themselves? Would I feel as if they're going to be okay? Would I be satisfied with the people that or with who they become? Are they kind? Are they strong? Do they have strong values? Right? Are they going after their dreams? Are they serving the world? These are all things that are important to reflect on. Or you never really think about it like that. You never really take the time to think about like, man, if my kids ended up just like me, would I be proud of them? And if the answer is no, then maybe you can get a clear idea of areas that you have to work on. Number 9, what am I looking forward to? What am I looking forward to? This is a big reason why I always recommend trips. Take trips, book a trip, find a trip for the year and just go. Make a commitment. Don't just say, oh, well, it'll be nice to go on a trip sometime this year. No, find the trip, find out how much it costs, put it all together, and just make a commitment that I'm going on that trip, no matter what. Because one thing that you have to understand about life is you're always going to get your standards. You may not always get what you want, but you'll get your standards. And if you make, let's just say, going on vacation the standard in your life every single year, no matter how difficult life may be, you're going to make a commitment to go somewhere every single year. That's your standard. You will meet that standard, even if you're broke. Take my word for it. Even if you are broke, no matter what's going on, it's like If you have a standard for living in a nice community, you will more than likely preserve that standard throughout the course of your life. Even if you have a setback, you'll find a way to naturally gravitate towards that standard. So this is a big part of this. So if, let's just say, your standard is to book a trip every single year, then think about the value of this. Think about the value of something that you have going on this year that you can genuinely look forward to. Just imagine living your life in that way, where every single year for months you are excited and looking forward to that trip, scratching off that part of your bucket list. It's just a really great way to go about your life. Okay, next up, we have, do I have any guilt for a decision? Do I have any guilt for a decision? And this is a really good one, because oftentimes our decisions are going to alter our destiny and where we end up. And it's so easy to fall into just becoming a victim or feeling guilty about things. And listen, everything that you do is ultimately a lesson. Every setback, every failure that, or something that you may perceive of as a failure, there's a lesson in it. And you can sit there and dwell into guilt, but how is that really serving you? You can sit there and say, man, I really made a terrible decision, and, feel guilty. But listen, we're all human. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay, like, not to let you off the hook, because what you've done may genuinely have hurt some people, but feeling guilty about it is not helping anyone. It's most certainly not going to serve you. So just blessing and releasing those very things that, you have just resentment towards, or guilt towards. And the thing about it is, if you're constantly feeling guilty, think about how that will creep into every other area of your life. You've got to liberate yourself from your mistakes. You aren't your mistakes. Your mistakes don't define you as a human being. We're all capable of making mistakes, and it's okay. You learn from it, you grow from it, you apologize to who you need to apologize, you repent, whatever it is that you got to do, and you move on with your life. So take this, even for those of you, maybe that's a word for you today. For those of you who have any type of guilt on any decision, listen, let it go. God forgives you. So that's all you need. You've got God's forgiveness, and honestly, that is all you need. Don't let nobody, constantly just, point the finger at you and tell you, how much of a messed up person you are, or, constantly, talk about your past mistakes, right? Set that boundary for them, right? Like, have that kind of discussion. Sometimes, people allow people to just constantly bring up their past mistakes. And there are going to be many moments where you have to draw the line in the sand and say, hey, like, I'm not cool with that. That's the very last time that you bring that up. I get it. I apologize. What happened, happened, but there's nothing that I can do about it. All I can do is apologize, learn from my mistake, and move on. So don't allow people to hold you in bondage to your mistakes. Some people will do that to try to manipulate you and control you. And you have to catch that. A lot of people know that you feel guilty. A lot of people know that, you just feel bad about what you did, and they'll use that as a manipulation tactic to control you. So if you're not aware of that, and don't be the person manipulating someone, constantly talking about their mistakes. All right, don't be that person, because for every finger you have pointed at someone, remember, you've got 3 back pointing at you. 3 fingers pointing right back at you. Right? So, moving forward, here we go. The 12 signs of burnout. Take notes. We're also a note-taking community. Maybe your notes can be a part of your journal. So if journaling ain't much of your thing, at least be a note taker. So as corny and cliche as you guys may find it, note takers are history makers, as we oftentimes say here on the Breakfast Club. So the 12 signs of burnout. Anybody feeling a little burnt out? Like, any of y'all feel like just a little tired? Life is life and you're kind of sick and tired of being sick and tired. I've had my fair share of that. I've got to reset over and over and over again, constantly reset over and over and over again. Anybody feeling just a little burnt down? Maybe maybe as a parent, you're just tired, right? Maybe with your job, right? With that boss, your supervisors, your managers, your coworkers, your business partners, vendors, all of that, right? You're just tired, you're burnt out. Well, if that's the case for you, I'm going to give you some game today, and you'll have some tools, and that's why I recommend taking some notes here, because burnout is a serious thing, and there are going to be moments in your life where you don't have the capacity to keep moving forward because you just have so much that you're going through, and you'll know the signs of burnout. And I'm gonna give you guys some of the signs, but you have to be very careful with burnout, because a lot of people, think about it, like I remember hearing a study saying that the majority of deaths happen Monday mornings between the hours, I believe, of 6 and 9 a.m. And people dying of heart failure, going from a job that has been burning them out. Life is just getting the best of them. So, you got to be very careful. Mental health is a serious thing. There's a reason why there's so much talk around mental health these days, right? Like, even though we live in the most prosperous times in all of humanity, people are just going through some very difficult circumstances, right? And it's just very difficult to survive today in today's competitive economic landscape. It's like, any of y'all shop for your own groceries lately? Hello, I'm talking to my wife the other day. I'm like, man, what is going on with these groceries? I just feel like, I don't know if it's because I got three little boys, but these grocery bills been billing, right? Like, I just feel like it's always like, I'm talking, I don't even want to give y'all my grocery bill like every single month. It is a lot for your average person. Thankfully, my vehicle is a hybrid, so I kind of, I got off the hook a little bit on them gas prices. But even with the gas, I shop for my gas at Costco, so just to bring down the price a little bit more, and I'm shopping here at Costco, but everything just seems to have gone up in pricing. And it's very challenging for a lot of people. So again, if you're going through burnout, or you're just mentally, emotionally beat down, this is going to be a really great segment for you. So here we go. The 12 signs of burnout. Now, I'll give you guys some nuggets in between these so that you have a general idea of how to go about handling the burnout, because I know this very, very well, especially with all of the hats that I wear. So, number one, you feel there is a strong need to prove yourself. I know you probably weren't thinking that. You feel there is a strong need to prove yourself. So, sometimes when you're going through burnout, you may have all this anxiety, and you're like, man, I've got to prove myself in this area, prove myself in that area. And you have these feelings of not feeling like you're enough. Anybody ever encounter that? Like, you just constantly feel like you're not enough, no matter what you do, you just can't seem to just get it right. So that's a big part of it. You feel a strong need to constantly prove yourself. That gets exhausting. Or also, I tell you what gets even more exhausting: being someone that you're not, right? Trying to be someone you're not. I mean, for those of you who don't really rock with your in-laws like that, it's like having your in-laws in town, and you constantly have to be on edge, just being all perfect and everything, just so you don't cause any problems, right? Some of you have been through this, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, but constantly feeling the need to prove yourself. Number two, the second sign of burnout: you keep working harder and harder to achieve this. So again, the feeling of not being enough, the feeling of always having to prove yourself. And now you go into working harder and harder just to achieve this. You become a workaholic. And do you know that being a workaholic is also a coping mechanism? Being a workaholic is also a sign that you're going through some trauma many times. A lot of people, they can't be with themselves. They can't process their emotions. So they just drown themselves in their work because their work is the one thing to distract them from their deeper issues that they're encountering. So whenever you see someone encountering or going through overwork and they're just constantly working and working and working, right? Sometimes you got to help snap them out of that. Like, hey, what's going on here? You know, you're always gone. You're always away from the family. And I get it. Sometimes you got to provide for your family. But there are many times where people just drown themselves in work to distract them from deeper issues that they don't want to heal from. Okay. Next up, we have the third sign is you begin to neglect your own needs more. This is a big one. How many of you can relate to just neglecting your needs? That need may be the need to eat properly, sleep better, right? Think about that. Neglecting your needs. I'm telling you right now, if for those of you who I was reading the book 12 Rules for Life yesterday, and Dr. Jordan Peterson was talking a lot about just this area of burnout, right? And he said, for those of you who don't know Dr. Jordan Peterson, he's a clinical psychologist, and he gives a lot of great advice on just kind of getting your life back together. And he says the very first thing that he recommends to his patients who come to him and they're going through burnout, they're going through anxiety, they're going through depression, he says immediately he recommends them getting on a routine at the same time every single day, getting an adequate amount of sleep and getting a routine in place. He also recommends eating a hearty breakfast, protein rich breakfast, because when you're going through so much anxiety and overwhelm, like you're depleting your natural resources, right? And you need that energy. So just taking care of that. And I want to encourage those of you who have just been burnt out, right? You're on an emotional roller coaster. Just take care of that. Sleep. I would even go as far as to say hydration. Drink at least half a gallon of water a day. And you'll notice a significant shift in the way that you feel. So think about this. Also, just neglecting your own needs. Sometimes it's just not only self-care, but just taking time to just chill and not focus on anything. Have one day out of the week that is just your holy Sabbath, right? The day that you can just commit to not doing any work whatsoever. A day where you can get grounded, a day for self-care every single week. And this is far more important than you realize. You may feel like, oh, well, I'm taking away from my work. You may feel as if you're taking away from the things that you need to be doing, but I find that it actually enhances those things. It enhances your career. It enhances your personal and professional life because you need that R&R. You need to reset yourself, and you have more life force to be able to commit to things throughout the course of the week when you have that reset. Okay, so that's a sign. You begin to neglect your own needs more. Sign number 4, you are conflicted and blame others for the situation. So putting yourself in victimhood, when you're constantly the victim, you're blaming everybody, not wanting to take responsibility. Oftentimes, anybody know any toxic people, right? Like not to cast any judgment right now. Don't drop their name in the comments now. But anybody know any toxic people that constantly blame everybody else but themselves? Like they're just always pointing the finger at somebody. Like we all know people like that, right? And maybe you've been that person at different seasons of your life. But that's typically one of the signs of a toxic person is they don't want to take personal responsibility. It's too painful, too difficult, too much to bear. The fact that it is them, right? A lot of people get freaked out by that. So again, don't fall into the blame game. Don't fall into victimhood. You've got to put yourself in a position of power where you're feeling empowered, as opposed to just pointing the finger and blaming everybody else but yourself, blaming the government, blaming the economy, blaming your boss, blaming your parents, right? You have to take personal responsibility for your transformation, for your healing. All right. Sign number 5, you change your values to focus on work more. You change your values to focus on work more. So you would think that if you're encountering burnout, you would ultimately work less. But people who encounter burnout consistently, they just drown themselves constantly in work. And it's like a downward spiral. And it sinks you deeper and deeper into all of these issues, because what will happen is you got to understand that we all have fundamental basic human needs, right? There are 6 main ones that I oftentimes talk about. The first 4 are the needs of the flesh, the primal needs. That's the need for certainty and security, uncertainty and variety, significance, and loving connection. So many people, they fill their needs through their job. Their job may be the one thing that provides them with a sense of certainty and security, because in their minds, they're like, well, as long as I'm working, I'm making money, right? And there's security here. Their job may also add some variety. Some people may enjoy their job or just are addicted to the variety. It's always something different. Some people get significance and they meet their need for significance or their need for loving connection, right? And then the last 2 needs are the spiritual needs. So the needs of the soul, and that's the need for growth and contribution. The thing about it is, if you truly want to live a fulfilled life, then you always want to satisfy your need for growth and contribution. The issue is most people are satisfying the needs of the flesh. And then they end up on a downward spiral because they end up sabotaging a lot of different areas of their lives. So people who will drown themselves in work, think about it. What's typically going to be some of the things that are affected? Their health, their family life, their personal relationship with their significant other, if they're in one, sometimes their spiritual life. So when you hear the concept of worshiping idols, it's like worshiping your job. Don't think that worship means like spiritual worship per se. Worship could very well mean what you give the vast majority of your time, energy, and attention to. That can become a form of worship, a form of idolatry in a sense. It's like if you spend all of your time consuming media about what's happening with every celebrity, you ultimately end up idolizing celebrities. And it's like you take the focus off of the important things out of life, which is your spirituality, which is your mental, emotional, physical health, your family, these kinds of things. So that's why it's essential to really catch yourself when you're drowning yourself in work. What is it costing you? If you stay on that same trajectory a year, 2 years, 3 years, what is it costing you? For a lot of people, unfortunately, it's their health. It's their health. And you should not be compromising your health just to be working all the time. And I get it. Some people have to put in 60, 70, 80 hours a week to just survive these days. But don't stay there. If you know that this path is ultimately leading you down a path of self-sabotage, if it's leading you to your destruction and demise, then you have to get resourceful and find other ways. There's so many different ways to generate revenue for yourself, and you've got to get very resourceful and creative with finding another way. Because again, it's like you never want to get to the point where you end up ultimately gaining the whole world and losing your soul in the process. You're not going to be happy if you're always drowning yourself in work. There are seasons to be a little obsessed. If you're building your dreams, that's very different, because you'll go through those seasons where you have to put in the work to do something great, but have something that can get you anchored. And that's why I always propose, and I'm a huge proponent for having one day out of the week where you get grounded, because no matter how busy you get, no matter how occupied you get, no matter how obsessed you get, you always have 1 week where you can dedicate fully to your spirituality, even though you should be doing this every single day, but at least one day out of the week, it'll help anchor you back in. So for me, it's like my spiritual life, getting anchored with that, right? So even for my family, right? I just bringing my kids, whether it be church on a Sunday, whether it be going to a park, going out to eat with my family, watching some Netflix and chilling. My wife and I, we just finished watching the series Shogun, and we were like binge watching Shogun. But again, taking that time for self care. The reason why, I've been actually being more mindful of doing normal things, right? And taking one day, like we'll get some wine, we'll get some takeout food, and just chill out, hang out with our kids, do a pizza night. These things, these are truly the things that matter, right? Like we get so obsessed with making more money, and that's important too, but I wouldn't say that it's more important than being there for your family, more important than taking care of your health, more important than being in tune with your spiritual life. Okay. So number 6. So as we go into the second half of the 12 stages of burnout, let us know if you're getting value from this. Okay. Let us know if you're getting value from this. All right. Number 6 is you deny the problems that arise due to work stress. You deny the problems that arise due to work stress. So, can anybody relate to that? It's like you got all kinds of problems and everything, you're in denial. This is a big, big sign. And I most certainly have been through that. It's like you're so stressed out that you almost become delusional, and you're not only lying to somebody else, you're lying to yourself, because it's like you're so engulfed by just stress of everyday life that you're not again taking responsibility for all of these different issues that you have. You don't even want to look at these problems. Okay, so as I jump into the second half, I just wanted to mention really quick. I've been getting a lot of people asking me about podcasting, coaching, speaking, consulting, all of that. How to integrate that into what you already have going on with your career, with your business, or how to amplify or take your finances to the next level in these specific spaces. So what I decided to do for this specific month is I'm actually, for the month of April, all April, I'm going to be doing complimentary 30-minute coaching sessions. I'm going to drop my Calendly link because I know a lot of people have been, just constantly asking me questions, hitting me up in my DM. And what I'm going to do is drop my Calendly link. If you have any questions about how you can integrate the world of influencer marketing, micro influencing, podcasting, coaching, speaking, consulting, all of that into what you already have going on. Or maybe you just want to even, add this as something else you can do to just take your finances to the next level. I'm going to share my Calendly link for this entire month. I'm going to be jumping on one-on-one complimentary 30-minute coaching sessions. So I'll drop my Calendly link here. And if you have any questions whatsoever, just how this works, how can you integrate it into your business, I'd be more than happy to provide you guys with that value. And looking forward to catching up with a lot of you guys. So get it while you can, while it lasts. It's only for this month I'm doing this. And you guys should see my Calendly link right in my comment section. My slots get booked out really, really fast. So jump on there as soon as you can. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you have free of charge. Okay, so next up, as we move forward and go into the second half of the 12 signs of burnout, number 7 is you withdraw from social life and your family as well. You withdraw from social life and your family as well. This is typically one of the ways that I cope with burnout. Can anybody like relate to that specifically? Anybody ever like just cut everybody off and just you go ghost for a while? Like you get off of social media for a while. Nobody can reach you. People are calling you. I have had my fair share of these seasons. And I'm telling you, sometimes I just find it better to cope with whatever it is that I'm going through, to just kind of isolate myself, go into monk mode, if you will. And that's a big sign that you're going through some burnout. You're withdrawing from social life and family. Now, just be very careful about isolating yourself, because isolating yourself could also affect your mental health in a negative way. And you want to always be mindful of that. Sometimes people isolate themselves, and remember, social bonding is what induces oxytocin in your body and brain. So whenever that the chemical of oxytocin, whenever it gets triggered, you're feeling those feelings of love and connection, and that's a fundamental basic human need that you need. So don't think that isolation is always the way. It's okay to go on those breaks from time to time, especially for me. Taking all day, every single day of my life is spent mentoring and coaching. So the last thing that I want to do is talk to more people whenever I'm going through burnout. And I find it super valuable to just kind of just take some time, chill, catch myself, and isolate from everybody. And if you need that, go for it, but don't stay there. It's good to have a tribe of people, to be around love, and be around a tribe of people that are genuinely going to have your best interests at heart, and give you counsel. Number 8, the 8th sign of burnout: your behavior changes, which upsets your loved ones. Anybody have a family member that just switched up on them out of nowhere? Like they just they completely changed who they were. And that's the thing. When you're in survival mode, one thing that I've learned about the human condition is people, you will have the worst drawn out of you when you are in survival mode. When the rent is due and the bills is billing and there's more month at the end of the money, you will very well turn into a completely different person. Not everybody. I don't want to speak for everyone here, but I know I have. I know the last thing I want to do is be politically correct or be kind and compassionate and loving when it's time to get to the bag, because you have to figure out your financial situation. So again, sometimes you're just burnt out with that, and you don't want to bleed on those who haven't cut you. That's a big thing. It's like, especially for those of you who are parents, don't put your children in a situation where now they have to heal from you, because you're constantly taking out your issues on them or your significant other, right? And it's easier said than done, because I know I most certainly, like, whenever I'm stressed out and I'm going through, a lot of just things and challenges, business challenges, all of that, right? That's a big part of the entrepreneurial journey. But again, don't just bleed on all of your loved ones when they've done nothing to you. And this is why it is important to have certain things in place that you can do, certain self-care tactics that you can put in place to help you get out of this burnout. Number 9, the personalization happens. You do not feel like yourself. Any of you ever gotten to the point in life? Drop a 1 in the comment thread if you've ever gotten to a point in your life where you're so burnt out, where you don't even feel like yourself. You're so much in the dark, like you're going through so much darkness where you've lost touch of who you are. Like you start to feel like a different person. And that's a scary place to be, when you don't even feel like, you don't even recognize yourself. You don't like who you're becoming. You haven't gone through no darkness until you've gotten to that place. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. You remember, you can recall that season where you were someone that you didn't want to be, right? Like life was drawing out the very worst in you. And the people who were closest to you didn't deserve that version of you. This is why it's important to be mindful of these things and catch these things, to kill the monster before it grows. Don't let the dark side engulf you. Preserve your light. Your light is truly sacred, and it has to be preserved and protected at all costs. Because it's very easy to fall into just the dark side of our nature. And when you're in survival mode, it's like everybody gets your wrath. And that's not who you are at your core. That's not your essence. That's not the divine aspect of you, right? That's the flesh. That's the fearful part of you. That's the scared little boy or scared little girl that dwells inside of you. That part of you that doesn't feel like you're enough. That's the side of you that you're spilling onto those who love you the most. That's where your shadow gets projected on the closest people to you in your life. The shadow being the part of you that you don't want the world to see. Your soft underbelly, your most vulnerable aspects of you, the parts of you that you're not so proud of. Don't let that side of you prevail. And that's the thing. I love the Native American just analogy of two wolves constantly being at war with one another. You have the wolf of the light and the wolf of the dark. And ultimately, the wolf that prevails is the wolf that you feed the most. So you enough, long enough, you'll get more of that, and that dark side will prevail over your light. So that's why you have to nourish your light. You have to have the awareness of when you're drifting off track, when you're going through burnout, when you're being a person that you're not at your core. You have to have that anchor. You have to have that guiding light to get you back on track. You don't have to lose yourself. You can feel it starting to fester in your heart and say, you know what, that's not me. That's not who I am. Right. And that's why, going into your spiritual life, having an anchor, a spiritual anchor every single day. Sometimes life just gets so difficult and you've exhausted all of your options and all you got is prayer. And the thing about it is you don't have to wait for it to get to that point. Pray all the time, even when you're up, even when times are good. You have spiritual weapons that can be of value to you when you're going through your most difficult seasons, whether it's prayer or meditation, whether it's reading through scripture, whether Hey, family. So sorry about that. Not sure exactly why that cut out. Looks like my internet is tripping out here this morning. So thank you so much for those of you who are still on. I truly appreciate it. So going back to our 12 signs of burnout. Thank you. If you're still with me, drop a one. Drop a one if you can still hear me, see me, all that good stuff. Appreciate you guys. I got the best tribe on the planet. You guys, still stay on whenever these things happen. So I truly, truly appreciate it. And let's continue with this. So if you've been getting value, drop a V in the comment thread for value. If this has been valuable for you so far. The last thing that I was just, referring to was using your spiritual weapons, whatever it is that you have. And prayer is a weapon. Prayer can truly help you battle, those seasons of your life where you're just in darkness, and you need that weapon to go and battle against like everything that's opposing you, in that season. And prayer and meditation, prayer, speaking to God, meditation, listening to God, has been by far like the best thing for me. Going out in nature, get around nature, get some sun, get around some plants and some trees and all of these things. Get yourself grounded. Walk around barefoot, right? All of these things can be super valuable for you. Okay. So, number 10, the 10th sign of burnout is you feel empty and numb, and substance abuse can occur. And here's the thing, as much as we may love, whether it's drinking or smoking, whatever's your thing, we may love these things that kind of mask emotions. I know for me, I like me a glass of wine from time to time. Sometimes when the wife and I are kind of going through a lot, we'll get us a bottle of wine and just kind of kick it for a little bit, get our minds off of things. But you got to be careful, because alcohol, what it does is it really throws your biochemistry out of whack, and it can end up messing you up and sinking you into a deeper depression. So always, always be mindful of that. There's certain things that can, really lead you into self-sabotage. And you have to ask yourself, if I continue using this substance, what will it do to me a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? Okay, it's easy to put a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. Very difficult to do the stitching necessary to really heal from those traumas. But sometimes, honestly, like, just giving yourself permission to cry it out and go through what you're going through, even for the fellas, like, it's okay to cry. It's okay to have those moments where you're super vulnerable and you're down and out, and don't bottle in those emotions. Let them flow. Okay. And don't drown them in alcohol. Don't drown them in all kinds of drugs, because it's just going to sink you into a deeper place. Find healthy, conducive ways, things that are conducive to your overall well-being. Those things are ultimately what's going to help you have longevity, and they'll be more sustainable, long term. A lot of these other things, they're not sustainable. Retail therapy, it's like, yeah, it can help you feel great in the moment, but then you end up feeling worse because you're deeper in that financial hole. So don't do the things that are going to dig you deeper into, more difficult circumstances. Number 11, you feel depressed, lost, and completely exhausted. You feel depressed. I've been there, just feeling lost. Just now, one of the things that I really want to suggest is, whenever you're in a space where you just feel lost or confused, find certain things that you can fix your mind on, that you can actually work on. So, for example, sometimes we get overwhelmed because our mind is trying to compartmentalize like our entire life, but we have a million and one things on our to-do list. So some of you can probably relate to this, right? Let us know if you can relate to this, where you've got 20, 13 things you can do on your to-do list, and you've got all these things, and you have so much anxiety because it's like, man, I got to do this, I got to catch up with this, I got to catch up with this. Sometimes the best approach is honestly focusing on just the next step. Just the next step. Because a lot of those things, you're not going to do anything about it right now. But focus on just one thing. You guys have been hearing me preach this a lot. Just focus on one more hard thing for the day. Usually the hard things are the things that you have to do, right? And if you can just focus on one more hard thing, don't focus on the million and one things that you have going on. Put your focus on one thing. And that's why I say identify the big three, because the brain loves working in threes, right? So if you just have three priorities for the day, that one priority may be going to the gym. That's your one thing. It may be reaching out to that prospect. It may be writing the 10 pages in that book that you're working on. But just focus on one thing at a time, and then you start to build that momentum. You start to generate that motivation that you need to really do more hard things. Okay, so whenever you find yourself just lost, have something that you need to do. Don't leave things to chance. Don't roll with the punches. Plan out your day. So if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, as cliche as that may sound. And if you don't plan out what you actually have to do, your brain is just going to be in limbo, and you're going to get anxiety. That's why having routine is so powerful. If you need to turn your life around, dedicate your life to a routine. Take my word for it. If you dedicate your life to a routine, things will start to change for you. The brain loves predictability. This ancient brain that we have, it loves routine. So do your best to systemize whatever it is that you have that you know that you should be doing. And you're going to find it a lot easier. That's why for those of you who've embarked on the 21 Days to Transformation Challenge with us as a community, you know that we have 21 to-dos, 21 habits that you integrate into your life every single day and following through on the important things. And eventually what happens is when you do these things long enough, they become unconscious competence where you don't have to think about it anymore. Like for me, I don't have to think about it doesn't require much willpower to go to the gym because it's been such an integral part of my life. Like it's embedded in the very way that I go about my lifestyle. And it's the same with, just even let's say content creation or taking care of business or family life. Have these things scheduled in. Get yourself a schedule, get yourself a routine, get your sleep back on track, stay hydrated, right? And watch how things start to change for you. Eat a healthy breakfast if you have to eat a healthy breakfast. So if you just do those things, mark my word, next week, you'll notice yourself feeling a lot better. And I wouldn't even say next week, just within 24 hours, you'll see a shift in the way that you feel about yourself. Okay, so get yourself, even if you have to get a planner, try something different. If maybe following a routine hasn't been working for you, maybe setting up a Google Calendar where you get reminders on your phone, maybe having a physical planner where you could actually write it down. That can be something that you follow for a season of your life. They have high performance calendars that you can find all online, right on Amazon, right? So many things that you can do to just kind of systemize your life and make this a part of your routine. But your brain should know exactly what it has to do every single day. Don't leave it in limbo. That's probably why you're getting overwhelmed and anxiety because you have 13 things that you need to do and you can't even think about the next step because you're thinking about all of the things that have to get done and it's so difficult to just focus on the next thing. But if you understood that just focusing on that next step is the solution, then it kills the overwhelm, it kills the anxiety because now the brain has the direction. It's like, all right, this is the next thing. Let me just focus on this. I have zero control over everything else. Let me put all of my focus on this. And you accomplish that thing for the day and you feel amazing because now you're being productive. Now you're in the state of growth. Now you feel like more empowered because you have more control. There's nothing worse than feeling like you're out of control, feeling as if you don't have the capacity to take action, especially as a man, especially if you're a provider for your family. One of the worst feelings, and it's even worse for entrepreneurs, because at least with a job, your boss can require you to come to work and you can just kind of go with the motions for the day and still collect the paycheck. With entrepreneurship, if you don't show up and show out, many times you don't get paid. Many times you can't provide for your family. So that's a big part of the process. Just making sure that you're focusing on the next thing. And when you do that, again, everything else will start to take care of itself because you'll generate that momentum. You accomplish that and you say, okay, let me just see if I can do one more hard thing. One more hard thing. You go to the gym and say, okay, got that out the way. I'm feeling good. Got some dopamine going, right? Got some endorphins going. Can I do one more hard thing? And then you reach out to that prospect. Can I do one more hard thing? You create that content. Can I do one more hard thing? You download that software that you need for your next podcast or your next YouTube channel or whatever it is. Can I do one more hard thing? You write the 10 pages of that book. You guys understand where I'm going with this? This is the process, just focusing on the next step. And sometimes when I don't have the next step, I just pray about it. I'll go into a prayer meditation and I'll just sit there and like, okay, God, show me your will. What do you need me to do next? And you'd be amazed by what you come up with. Give it a shot and let me know how that goes for you. Next up, we have last but not least, you mentally and physically collapse. Full burnout. That is the last stage of these 12 stages, right? Because that's ultimately what they are. These are incremental stages. So this is the progression of burnout until you finally get to the last point where, and we've seen people, anybody has seen anyone check into a hospital. I've experienced this, someone just pass out because they've just pushed themselves to the limit. Some of you have probably been through this where you've pushed yourself too far and you end up collapsing or, having to, go to a hospital to admit yourself into a hospital because you just went too far. So again, ask yourself, which stage are you in? Which are some of the signs? So I'll go through them really quick one more time so that you guys can catch up with your notes. Number one, you feel there's a strong need to prove yourself. That's how it first starts. Then you go to stage two, you keep working harder and harder to achieve this. So again, it's that feeling of not being enough. That's where a lot of it is rooted. Then you begin to neglect your own needs more. So you're going so hard to feel like you're enough. You're doing the most to feel like you're enough to the point where you're so immersed in that where you neglect every other area of your life, family life, spiritual life, health, all of that. Then you are conflicted and blame others or the situation. So super conflicted, neglecting your needs, now playing the blame game, now going into victimhood. Stage 5, you change your values to focus on work more. Now your whole life is dedicated around work. Your whole life is just being a workaholic and not having any boundaries for any other thing. Stage 6, you deny the problems that arise due to work stress. So you're in denial. That may be your marriage. That may be your parenting. You're putting it on the back burner. You're acting as if it's not a growing problem in your life. Stage 7, you withdraw from social life and your family as well, right? Like this is how you know, like exactly where this path is leading you. It's like, why would you neglect the most precious thing in your life, which is your family? Stage 8, your behavior changes, which upsets your loved ones. Okay, stage 9, depersonalization happens. You do not feel like yourself. Stage 10, you feel empty and numb. Substance abuse can occur. Stage 11, you feel depressed, lost, and completely exhausted. Number 12 is you mentally and physically collapse, full burnout. Which stage are you in? Which stage? Think about that. Out of all the stages that we've gone through, all these different signs that you've been encountering, where are you on this journey? And I want to give you guys some quick tools that you can integrate into your life to be able to get yourself out of this. Because it's like you've kind of put yourself in this hell on earth. And the good thing about it is there's a way out. You don't have to stay stuck here. So moving forward, how can you get out of this? Number one, like I mentioned, I've kind of alluded to some of the solutions that I propose. So the very first thing, get back your sleep schedule. Get back on a sleep schedule. Get yourself at least 7 hours of sleep. I know it sounds almost impossible for some of you. Whatever it is that you have to do, understand that your circadian rhythm, the way your body, operates, your sleep patterns, this plays a big part in how you process your emotions and your energy levels throughout the course of the day. So that plays a big part, is just sleep. Sometimes we just need a good nap as well. So I know for me, many times I'll take a midday cat nap just to reset myself. So that's the first thing. Sleep, get yourself on a routine, a consistent routine. The body and brain loves routine. So that's another big part. Eat yourself a nutritious breakfast, starting out your day. Sometimes in order to win the day, you have to win the morning. So taking time to win the morning is super valuable. Okay. So that's a big one. Getting outside, going for a walk. If you can't find the strength in you to get a full blown out exercise, at least take the time to go out and go for a walk outside. It'll help. Like just the process of getting sunlight gives you vitamin D. It's, serotonin which is a mood stabilizer in your body. Remember, we're just a sack of chemicals. Our bodies are sacks of chemicals: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. Those are the four chemicals that alter our happiness levels. So if you understand how to induce these chemicals in your body and brain, then you can truly take back control over the way that you feel. And the quality of your emotions are going to determine the quality of your life. So you have to learn how to be able to manage your emotions, how to manage your stress levels as well. Because the thing about it is, pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. You're going to go through pain, but you don't have to stay there. There's always a way out. Okay, so hydration is a big part of it. Maybe you're just not drinking enough water or eating the right foods. Cut out a lot of these acidic foods that are, contributing to inflammation in your body. All right. So those are just a few things that, of course, come to mind. Sometimes, honestly, what has been helping me, sometimes just reading a brand new book on personal development. You'd be amazed at what that can do. 10 pages a day. That's the rule of thumb in the world of personal development. 10 pages a day. If you're not a reader, listen to an audiobook. Find yourself an audiobook that you can tune into. Listen to some podcasts, some empowering podcasts that are motivational. Maybe they're pertaining to the business that you're in, the industry that you're in. Jump onto the Journey podcast with Josh Valentine, and you can tune into that. Jump onto past Breakfast Club sessions. All of these things that can help you grow in different areas of your life. Pick up scripture. Scripture helps. I find a great deal of peace and solace in my most difficult times, just picking up scripture and reading through the good book. That most certainly helps as well, right? Prayer, meditation. You got to go to church or a synagogue, whatever's your thing, right? Go and do that. Go deeper into your faith. Go deeper into your spirituality. All of these things will help you kind of get better and find your way back to the light. And the main thing that I just want to say is, no matter where you are, no matter what stage of burnout you're in, understand that if you can kill the monster before it grows, you don't have to get to the place where you end up self-sabotaging your life, your family life, your health, all of these things. It doesn't have to get that extreme. But notice it in your life. If you heard any of those stages and you're like, man, that's me, I'm stage 5, or I'm stage 7, oh, man, I'm actually at 8, right? Then reset yourself. Take a full day to just reset, recalibrate everything, your body and brain, and get grounded, and don't do anything. Sometimes that's the best thing that you can do. There's a beautiful Chinese way of being. It's referred to Wu Wei. It's what it's called, Wu Wei. And Wu Wei, the process of Wu Wei is essentially just being still and letting life just happen, right? Just being still and catching yourself for a moment. Sometimes the best solution is not doing anything, and just really taking some time to ground yourself and get back in tune with your spirituality, get back to your self-care, so that you have the capacity to be able to change your circumstances. So whatever reset you have to go through, give yourself some grace, give yourself permission to go through that reset. Reset your body, reset your mind, and most importantly, reset your soul. And then once you do that and you instill a good routine, you schedule out, right? I love going in 21 days, because 21 days typically is the minimum amount of time you need to make these things a lifestyle. So give yourself about 21 days to just plan out your day, right? Maybe your goal is to work out 4 times this week. Maybe your goal is to limit, the amount of fast food you eat, or to set a financial budget for yourself, or to spend more quality time with your significant other, to take your kids to the park, right? But put these things in your schedule, because if you put them in your schedule, you're far more likely to follow through on these things. Maybe your business hasn't been growing. Maybe you're just not satisfied with where you are in your business. Well, schedule in the next step. Maybe the next step is making that phone call to that prospect. Maybe the next step is, enrolling in that course, hiring that coach, investing in that seminar, whatever it is. But take the next step and schedule it in, though, right? Don't just say, oh yeah, on Tuesday, I'm thinking about, reaching out to this amount of prospects. No, schedule out a specific time frame throughout the course of the day where you can actually follow through on these things. Okay, so if you guys got value from this, drop a V in the comment thread. I really wanted to go through these 12 stages or 12 signs of burnout because we've all experienced it, where we all go through it from time to time. And the main thing is I want you guys to be equipped with just the awareness and the tools on how to get yourself out of it. Your family doesn't deserve that version of you. Your family, your friends, your coworkers, your colleagues, all of these people don't deserve that version of you. They deserve the version of you that's resourceful, that's love and light, and the part of you that's strong but also compassionate, the part of you that helps, the part of you that inspires, the part of you that is a leader. That's the version of you the world deserves. Don't let the dark aspects of yourself just be the leading source in your life. You find your way back to the light, have that anchor, have something to help get you grounded. And I commend you all for tuning into the Breakfast Club every single Tuesday. And if you know anyone who can get value, from today's Breakfast Club session, maybe you see someone going through some of these signs. Maybe you have a coworker or a family member or a child that's currently going through these stages, and perhaps sharing this Breakfast Club session with them, they can better identify the fact that they're even in this stage in their life. And my hope for you all is that you are encouraged throughout the course of the week, that you get yourself back grounded, you get yourself back anchored, and back in alignment with your values and your goals and your dreams and everything like that. And this week can be ultimately productive and fruitful for you. So breakfast is officially served. God bless every last one of you. Once again, if you got value, I read through all my comments. So hop over to Facebook, drop a comment on Facebook. Once again, if you would like to book a complimentary one-on-one coaching session, you could also find my Calendly link on there. I'm specifically offering complimentary sessions to people who want to learn how to integrate podcasting, coaching, consulting, speaking, all of that stuff into what they do. Yes, looking forward to seeing you guys next week. Take care. Thank you to all of those who share stars on my Facebook, all of my subscribers, and I'll be seeing you guys next week. Take care. Thanks again for tuning into this episode. It would mean the world to me if you can follow, subscribe, share, or even leave a review. I look forward to putting out more content, and we'll see you on another episode.